We're going to start our lesson today on symmetry, and we're going to create an orchid, or you could call this an iris. So we're going to create some plants from nature, and we're going to be using a monoprinting technique. So we're creating a symmetrical image using monoprinting. The first step to do this is to just take a piece of paper and divide it in half. I'm just going to fold it carefully in half. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, because what we're concerned about is the actual fold here. So I could actually, even if I wanted the plant on this side of the page, just make it half over here. What we're concerned about is the fold line here. This just needs to be straight, because this will become our line of symmetry. Whatever I paint on one side will be reflected and printed on the other side to an exact image or an approximate image. So actually we could be calling this approximate symmetry. I'm going to first start off with some yellow paint, and I'm only going to dip in. When I use my brush, I only dip into the tip here. I don't get all of this up here wet. I don't get all the bristles wet. I'm just doing the tip of the paint, and I'm painting right on my line of symmetry here. That's the center. So if I actually folded this, pressed it, not much would be printed because it's right on the exact center. Now whatever I place to the left or right of this line, for example here, I'm going to just draw one little line or place a blob of paint here and connect it to the center line. Whatever I place on this side, when I fold my paper and rub, this paint will be printing on this side right here. And this is called a monoprint technique, where artists place paint, rub, and print only one time. Like if I was going to print something this again, for example here, I'm taking another paper, rubbing, it's not really printing much on here. You see the whole kind of heart-shaped flower plant here didn't print, just the thicker paint printed. That's why it's called a monoprint. You can repeat something and copy it one time only. This will become the center of the flower. Now, at every point when you put paint down, you're going to adjust it. You can adjust it or assess it, because as you print, sometimes the paint, if you notice, blobbed out to the edge. So if you don't like something, just kind of fix it. I didn't want it to be more heart shape. I kind of wanted it to be a gradual shape. So I'm just adding a little bit more paint after I assessed and said, I don't really like it, so fix it. Okay, there. I kind of want this type of a shape here for the center of my flower. The next step, I'm just wiping my brush here on this paper towel, and the next step is I'm going to go into a pink value color, and I'm going to actually what I call double dipping. So I'm going to take my brush and I dip into the paint on one side, a lighter value. Then if I turn my brush, I can dip into a darker value at the same time. So I'm double loading the brush, or you can call it double dipping, double loading. So two colors at once, and I'm just going to dab on one side of this center of the flower. I'm going to dab a letter C. I'm going to start little teeny tiny at the top, and then I'm going to get a little bit bigger as I go around. And I'm just dabbing. If you need more paint, go on. And the best thing to do is to do little, and then if you need to adjust it, add more. It's hard to take something that's large and big and make it smaller. So I go little to big. Okay? And then, like I said, every time you see something, you're going to adjust it. Do I like it? Do I need to fix it? And so you're assessing. I want it to be a little bit thinner at the tips, so I'm making thinner lines here. And then I'm going to I kind of want to bring this darker values in here. You can do paint strokes. You're just applying color. So I wanted to remove some of those dabby looks. And I'm going to rub. Now sometimes if you rub too hard, it's going to expand too much. So you have to just kind of adjust the way you're rubbing. I want this to be blended a little bit more, so I'm actually going to blend with my brush and rub. So I'm placing color basically around. I come down from the top, around like the letter C, and come to the center line of symmetry. There. And when it looks okay to you, then you can move on to the next step. But each time, like I said, I want to put a little bit of darker value on the outer edges here. And I'm doing some brush strokes. And a little bit of darker in the center. maybe a little bit on the tip here too. And I'm going to rub, and then I'm going to open up. Once you like that tip, that part of it, this is the top part. These are petals that are forming up and around the center point of the flower. This is all your stamens and pistils. This is all where the pollen is in the flower. The reproductive parts of the flower are all in the inside. The next step is to come out from the center, touch your line of symmetry, and I'm going to draw a giant, and it's a curve like I'm making a big letter C, but then I'm going to stop before I continue the bottom. And then I'm just going to do some strokes of paint in here, bringing it back up to the center. I want this to be really skinny as a point because this is the petal that's forming, coming out from the center. And I'm going to close and rub. Then you assess. You can see where some areas didn't print as well. Just repaint. You know, you never want to just start over. You can always fix pictures, fix paintings, fix your areas. And then I always like to put in different values, darker values, lighter values. I could bring up a little bit of this color here. If you put something down here, you want to bring it up and in here a little bit too. You can continue to work on the top as you go. I'm going to rub. Now I'm sticking with the same color family as I'm mixing these colors. I'm keeping it all in the pinks and purples. Pinks and purples are all part of reds. They're all made with a base of red or pink. Purple is made with red and blue. So these colors are going to work together. Okay, and then I'm going to rub anywhere I want to adjust. Rub so that it becomes symmetrical. Same on both sides. Open up. And then when you're happy with that, you can go on to the stem. And the stem is just a straight line down. Right here. And then I'm going to add leaves coming up. Load your brush real good with this paint so that you can, I'm going to start at the bottom, go up, and come back. If you work with a thinner paint, it helps with this because the leaves, I'm going to give some yellow in here. You want the leaves to be thinner at the tip, then thicker at the bottom. And it's really actually best to print each one as you go along, instead of putting them all together like I'm doing, but I'm just trying to hurry this. Then the paint won't dry. So if the paint dries, what's going to happen is it won't print well. But you can just assess it. If it doesn't print well, no big deal. Just go add more paint. And there you have an iris or an orchid in Symmetry. You can even go on to add, if you'd like I did here. I added even another petal right down here. Here's my original. I added another petal in the front here before I went and printed my leaves. That's up to you. And you can go ahead and decorate your background as you want, put more irises in. If you want another iris over here that's smaller in the background, you just form another line of symmetry. Make sure this is dried first, because see what happens, you'll end up printing. And then you could add a smaller iris back here that's farther in the distance if you want to make a field. But that's the basis of symmetry in nature, monoprinting an iris.